Keylee, go ahead, then after you, we'll take a break.
All right.
Yay.
Hello, everyone. This is Keylee Marineau with Public Health and Social Services. One second. Now someone's calling in on this phone.
Are you at Costco?
Okay. All right.
I
So
saw Costco yesterday.
we received our commerce grant. It was signed last week, and Tom Webster and I have been busy working on creating a plan. Commerce asked for a plan to be signed off by the public health officer per county, and then sent to Commerce for approval. And so, but Tom Webster, myself, and Director Slaughter worked on the plan all weekend. And Dr. Yu signed off on the plan yesterday afternoon, and we were able to send it to Commerce, and we're awaiting their feedback and then their go-ahead. And we're poised to begin executing contracts as per the plan. And we're just waiting to make sure that we have our priorities set so we can just begin contracting with our homeless service providers. The highlights of the plan are following Commerce's components of what they identified as priorities. So we are prioritizing hygiene, increasing access to hygiene in encampments and also within our homeless shelters. So we'll be hopefully procuring a hygiene trailer. We'll be contracting with the City of Olympia to be placing portable toilets as well as hand washing stations throughout the county. We've offered to do the same for other jurisdictions. We'll be purchasing as we can as much hand sanitizing or other sanitizing agents so that folks in encampments, if they can't make it to a hand washing station, can at the minimum keep their hands clean. We're increasing our outreach efforts so that our individuals can remain in their encampments as per the recommendations and guidance from HUD, Housing and Urban Development. Keeping folks in their encampments is preferable than to encouraging them to come into a congregate shelter at this time, which I'll get to in a second. And so we're extending contracts with partners in prevention education to ensure that individuals in encampments are remaining safe, have access to sanitizing equipment or hand sanitizer, and delivering food. So we're increasing a contract with the Catholic Community Services Community Kitchen, and they will be increasing their meal production, and we will be delivering meals to the encampment so that they do not have to come down into feeding programs. Another priority we have that we're going to immediately contract with our homeless shelters is increasing shelter provision to 24 hours, 7 days a week. So for shelters that weren't already operating on a 24/7 basis, we'll begin to operate on a 24/7 basis when they get the funds to do so. But along with that comes the social isolation requirements and guidance from the state, local, and federal requirements for individuals to remain 6 feet apart. And so shelters are adjusting the ways in which their beds are set up so that individuals that are staying in shelter can remain 6 feet away from each other, as well as providing one area for isolation were a shelter participant to become symptomatic partway through the night, to come up with a protocol and also an area where they could safely be removed from the congregate area. With these changes, however, of course, our shelters are going to be losing capacity. They will begin to have to take measures to ensure that that 6 feet distancing rule remains in place. And so we're coming up with alternatives for those folks that will be displaced from those shelters due to the social distancing rules. And we're working with the City of Olympia and Interfaith Works to identify a location for an extra emergency shelter that will be stood up for at least the next 3 months We've got 2828 Martin Way as a potential for that. And then we're also working really hard to engage with the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army has a big shelter downtown, as you know, and currently they're only operating the contracted 29 cold weather beds for the cold weather shelter season. And we've invited them to participate in COVID response, and they've declined at this point. And so I know that we are working to engage with headquarters up in Seattle to encourage them to open their shelter, or at least offer it to another body so they can operate a COVID response shelter. So we're waiting to hear word on that. What else are we doing? We are working with the ECC to come up to identify the location for quarantine and isolation beds. In lieu of having those identified, where we have an individual that was experiencing or showing symptoms of COVID, we could use hotel vouchers to get them isolated and safe. In the meanwhile, currently we have a contract with the city of Olympia, and there are 10 individuals from the mitigation site that are just high risk, meaning they have some significant medical complications already on board, or they're in a high risk age category. And so we put them up for 2 weeks in a hotel downtown, and we're hoping to move those individuals into the new shelter that we're standing up with Interfaith Works when those 2 weeks are up. We have sent the plan, we're hoping to send the plan today to the Regional Housing Council so that the other jurisdictions can see what the plan entails. We have sent it to the city of Olympia so they can be making their plans in coordination with the overarching plan from the county. I think that's about it.
Okay. Any questions of Keylee?
This is Tye. We've got 2 items later on the agenda, and I'm going to look at Ramiro. Mm-hmm. Is there something like with respect to, so one of the items, Keylee, is a letter that the mayor of Olympia sent to the Salvation Army asking, I would like your input on that. I had provided that to the board so that we could, I mean, I don't know if there's, do you think it would be useful for us to echo that letter with a letter from the board, or is there any other type of input
copy of the letters right here,
or pressure that we could provide to help with that situation?
I absolutely think it would be important for the board to send a letter that is similarly worded. It's a crucial location. It's a shelter that's already sprinkled and designed to house individuals, and it's not being utilized. And so the other location that we have to stand up an extra shelter isn't sprinkled, so we have to staff it 24/7. We're getting special permission from the fire department to, on an emergency basis for 3 months, use that location. But there's an empty sprinkled building in downtown Olympia that would be a much easier move for the shelter providers to just stand up that shelter almost immediately.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question was, we also have an agenda item about a request we got from United Way and the South Sound Community Foundation, and they did a briefing to us last week of what their vision was, and then they provided a follow-up email over the weekend on the initial allocation of their funds that they collected, some of which went to homeless stuff. There was a Catholic Community Services got $12,500 to expand daily meal services for homeless. Interfaith Works got money to for hygiene and sanitation supplies to meet other basic needs for unsheltered homeless. I guess what I'm asking, I like your input because we're going to address this later. There was a question from the board about whether or not, I know Tom, I think I heard was on this call too. Tom, are you there?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, so we had a question from the board. I don't want you guys sitting around all morning, but we had a question about whether or not some of the money that we've gotten from the Commerce Grant or some of these monies would be appropriate. It looks like these folks are working on an array of things, some of which are homeless, some of which are not. And given what their priorities are, I just wondered if you had any input for us as we make a decision of what money we could put toward them, or if we should put money toward their efforts. If you don't have an opinion, that's fine, but I just wanted to ask, because we're gonna be discussing it later, you guys might not be on the line.
Are you talking about number 6?
Do you want to go first, Keylee?
Yes.
No, go ahead, Tom.
So, thanks, and thanks for that question. Yeah, so with our plan, our recommendation would be to use the commerce funds, need to be used in line with our plan. So we're going to fund those direct activities. So using the commerce funds to send to United Way, we would then ask the United Way to fund the same activities that we're intending to fund. So it does create, in a sense, an extra step or an extra middle organization to funnel those funds to the same activities that I've identified in our plan. So I don't know if using the commerce funds, donating them to United Way is the most efficient use of those resources. We're looking, our plan actually identified around $2.4 million in costs. And the grant was around for $1 million. So we're looking for all available sources of funds to kind of work to those organizations carrying out the plan. So we're looking, to be honest, to hold on to every penny and to identify every penny we can get our hands on to fund the organizations that those tasks that Keylee listed, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Tom. It's kind of what I wanted to hear your perspective.
And I'll also add that I did have a conversation with Chris Welch from United Way about this yesterday. So we had a good conversation highlighting exactly what Tom had just said.
Okay. Gary?
I guess from the perspective of working together with all other entities that are trying to do good, I guess is the best way I can put it. I think I'm still in favor of expending some of that money towards the request that we got last week.
From United Way?
Yeah.
The other group?
So at what point do we want to make some decision, yay or nay, in that regard? I'm just referring.
We have an agenda item later.
Coming up later.
I just want to get their input so that in
Okay.
case they're not on the line later.
Right.
Okay. I do have a question about the letter that Olympia sent to the Salvation Army. And it says, with the county's help, and I'm kind of curious, what does that mean?
That's what I was gonna ask, because apparently this
Oh.
letter is dated the 16th, 8 days ago.
Yeah,
And it
so,
says the city of Olympia and Thurston County are coming to you. I wasn't aware we were coming to the Salvation Army.
well, that's kind of what I want clarification on.
I don't know if the letter has been sent. I'm not aware of that. I think I just got a draft of this letter.
So this isn't even, this might be a moot point, this whole thing?
What do you mean?
Well, because it was 8 days ago, things have changed a lot, maybe in 8 days.
I don't think the issue has changed.
No,
Okay.
that's why I asked
Yeah.
Keylee. She said
Okay.
it hasn't changed.
Okay, then I have a
So we're
follow-up.
not even sure this has been sent then?
I don't believe it has sent.
Oh, okay.
But I am not aware that it has been sent.
Well, then what does it intend?
Hey,
that-
Keylee, do
our
you know if
involvement is?
the letter from the city of Olympia has sent to the Salvation Army?
It has been sent to the Salvation Army.
It has?
It has.
Okay, and so, and that letter includes the counties?
Well, it says it does, and I want to know what that means.
That's a good question. I honestly, we had a conversation about sending a letter. Initially, we were going to ask the Board of County Commissioners and the City of Olympia and the City of Lakeview and the City of Tumwater to sign on to that letter. And so there was a letter that was drafted. And so I think what happened is we just said, go ahead, City of Olympia, if you feel like you can get this done right away, go ahead. And I think they just didn't change the language on the letter, honestly. And it was
So
not caught. We did not catch it.
we still don't know what that means, both in that first sentence and in the second paragraph?
I don't have the letter in front of me right now.
Okay.
So
Well-
if you read the letter, is
Well, with the
Can I-
county's help makes me nervous. Does that
Keely,
mean
let me just read
$1
the,
million?
Yeah.
it's 3 sentences, let me just read it to you.
Yeah.
The city of Olympia and Thurston County are coming to you in desperate need of the Salvation Army's aid. Next paragraph. We request the use of your property on Fifth Avenue in downtown Olympia that has traditionally been used for shelter to continue and possibly expand those efforts to support our planned COVID-19 response. With the county's help, comma, we are prepared to take responsibility for this activity if needed. That's the language we're questioning.
And
Oh, I
again,
see.
and
So
we're
I think
hearing
that
it-
that,
We're hearing
with
this
the
for the
county
first
itself,
time,
would be
Keylee.
referring to any funds or contracts that we would be executing with the city of Olympia. So I think there was an assumption that were there to be funds made available, then that would be what the help means.
Yeah, it was just disconcerting to hear this here today for the first time, a week after this letter allegedly has been sent.
Can I have a follow-up on that?
Yeah,
Then in the third paragraph down, our library, senior center, and other critical resources have been closed because of COVID-19. We are hoping your Olympia Salvation Army facilities can help our communities most vulnerable meet their basic needs. I guess my question there is, are they not utilizing their own buildings and stuff? I mean, I'm not against the Salvation Army helping, but okay, if they've closed these other areas, does that mean they're not available?
That is, the library are not available.
And that's administrative determination somehow with the city or what? I mean, they don't wanna put up
No.
cots in that building or? I'm just curious. There's a lot of unknowns here that I don't know anything about.
I'm sorry, I think I'm confused. I think the decision for the library to close was made by the library, by Timberland Regional Library, prior to the governor making a proclamation for those types of services to be closed. That was their decision that they made.
Okay. What about the senior
Sorry.
center?
Senior Center was also, that was a decision made by the Senior Center
Doesn't the
staff.
city run
admin
that?
staff.
The city doesn't run
the
that?
city owns the building, I believe.
Yeah, that whole community center is kind of the city.
It's the city, Parks and Rec.
Programs,
The Parks and Rec.
center.
But the senior center runs itself, I believe. Anyway, there are a lot of questions in this letter.
I do have one other
Go ahead.
question. You made mention of shower trailers, I think, that you're purchasing?
No, we're investigating.
What?
Investigating.
Okay. I'm wondering about the need for individual trailers to be set up at different locations. If we're giving free bus service, why couldn't these individuals jump on the bus and go to a static location that might be a lot cheaper and provide them a better service than trailers? I'm just asking that question.
So, a couple things. The intercity transit has reduced some of their routes. So there are some routes that are no longer in operation, and then if they may move forward and operate on a weekend-only schedule. So that transportation issue is kind of it's a little bit different than it was a couple weeks ago. And secondly, I just got an email from Keith Staley that the city of Olympia is closing all of their parks and all of their bathrooms. And so there's another reduction in easily accessible places where an individual can use the restroom and wash their hands. So it's, and the hand washing stations through Island Johnny have actually all been distributed at this point. So there aren't any extras at this point to be dropped in locations where people can take care of their basic hygiene needs. And there are very limited places where people can take showers. The community care center is closed. Those are not available. The showers at this point at the Olympia Center are not available. The only places where people can take showers, young people can take showers at Rosie's Place. Folks at Union Gospel Mission can take showers. And I believe the city of Olympia is getting a hygiene trailer in their mitigation site here soon, and so they'll be able to take showers, but that's about it.
Okay, and then one following, you made mention of 2828 Martin Way. Where is that actually located and what's the utilization of that site intended to be?
That is a property that is owned by the city of Olympia that's in the process of being developed for in the future, a permanent supportive housing development. Right now, it is not being utilized, but there is a building that was a podiatry clinic and a dental clinic that has been unoccupied and empty for a while after the city had purchased that property. And so that building has been identified as a possibility for extra shelter beds.
Yeah, and I'm just curious the proximity of that building.
That's about,
It's near Ensign Road.
Around DeVoe Street?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, if they've closed the community center and other areas that these individuals might want to clean up at, aren't they adding to the problem rather than
It does make
giving a
it-
solution?
It makes it very difficult for those individuals to follow the guidelines for
Well-
COVID response.
Yeah, I mean,
Into the city. we have to have
isn't
that.
that should be their responsibility to keep those places open so those people can respond, I would think, rather than us build additional shower trailers and such to take out. I mean, I'm kind of stumped by that move. If they're claiming to try to help, that doesn't sound like much help to me.
Well, they're minimizing their staff being involved in maintaining it.
If I may, the
Shelter.
shower trailer is a grant provided by
Lot.
Lot. So this is not county funds. So we just want to make sure that we access that grant, which is specific to build a shower trailer. And I believe it is important for us to build infrastructure to be mobile.
Okay,
So, and that is, I believe, my perspective, and if there is anything that we can do to build infrastructure to respond to this another emergency, we shall do it. There's many options, many strategies along the way. But I think building that infrastructure of building a mobile shower unit that is paid for by a grant by Lot, I think is a prudent approach.
yeah, okay, good enough. I have no argument with that. But as you're looking at how to proceed, what to buy, what to build, there's a gentleman in downtown Olympia that's building many living spaces out of storage containers that the city is purchasing, I believe, aren't they?
She's aware of it.
Yeah, you're aware of that. So might it be prudent to have that gentleman build a few of those that could be placed in strategic locations designed specifically for this whole cleanliness issue rather than sleeping quarters? And it might be, we might say get 3 different locations instead of 2 if we try to screw,
All those good ideas, Commissioner, and we have a forum, the Regional Housing Council.
Mhm.
They're just really looking for all the different opportunities and options that we have as a region. And this certainly will be a good idea to bring that to the Regional Housing Council.
So maybe Keylee can bring that
Yeah,
up
and
with
Keylee is part of that council, so the
Okay.
next meeting she will bring those up.
Okay, good enough.
I just want to circle back to the task at hand, which is that regardless of who closed what and what other good ideas we have a need we could really use the Salvation Army's facility. And I double checked in with the city of Olympia, the mayor, about that, and I'm hearing Keylee confirming that this is still, nothing's changed. This is still something we could really use and something that is right there in our midst with the history of being able to serve the community. So I'm supportive of creating a letter that's parallel to, if not identical to, but something similar along the lines to support this request.
Logistically, when did you have that conversation with the mayor?
It was Friday at our meeting at noon I subbed in for you,
Okay,
the 3 cities meeting.
got it, thank you. Go ahead, Gary.
I'm not against some type of a letter as well, but I'd like to clarify what the county's help and
We can take that,
relationship.
we can
Yeah.
take that language out. I mean, that's why I said a parallel letter.
So,
Yep.
as you heard from Keylee, the adding the city of Olympia and county's help, it was just more of an understanding that perhaps at some point we'll have this conversation before this letter was sent.
Okay,
So there's not really anything behind this. If I may, if you can concentrate on the gist of this, of this letter, and in fact, we do need to get the Salvation Army assets to be part of the response. That is the gist of this letter. As Commissioner Menser stated, is the board willing to draft similar letter urging the Salvation Army to open their doors?
Yes.
That's really the question.
okay, I've got nothing, yeah, I'm all for that.
So we'll draft that similar letter for you to review and we'll process for signatures. Okay,
Fine.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Keylee, and
You're welcome.
Tom, do we need Tom anymore?
Hey,